In South Africa currently, over 60% of consumers are making their purchasing decisions influenced by social media. It means there's never been a more precise time for us to really understand the power of personal branding, and I think there's no one better than you to kick off this conversation.
Thank you so much. I feel honored.
So Ayanda, you've successfully built your personal brand, and it's been very authentic, yet you've still been able to be influential. What are some of those key principles and elements that you've incorporated to ensure you're able to do this?
So I think a lot of people are unaware of my history in branding. So my history in branding started off from what I studied, which is marketing and communications, furthered by an honors in marketing. But most importantly, I've navigated 4 industries. So I've worked in pharmaceuticals, I've worked in medical devices and diagnostics, I have worked in branding, marketing, as well as entertainment. And from all those experiences and journeys, you get to a point where you understand yourself well, you understand what your unique proposition is, and you understand who you are and what it is that you have to offer. So within my branding experience, I used to be a brand manager for a big corporate, and in that experience, I learned how to package a brand, which is a product. At that point, I was selling Dark and Lovely and all these other products. So when I then came into a space of entertainment, I had to look at myself as the product. And I had to identify what are my unique selling points, what makes me stand out, what is it that I have to offer to the world. That is how you start the development of your personal brand. It's by a deep understanding of who you are and what it is that sets you apart. If you're going into personal branding or your business and you're looking at other people, not just for inspiration, but to be like them, you've started off on the wrong note. The right note to start off is the note where you understand what it is that you uniquely bring to the table. And I think that is the key aspect of personal branding.
I love that. Entrepreneurs, by show of hands, how many of us can name not our business, but our individual unique selling propositions? Show of hands. How many of us can say, this is what I know I do well, and it's why they're going to buy into me? Okay, this is good to know.
So that is actually, it starts off with just taking yourself as a person, before your business, taking yourself as a person seriously in the field that you're in. Understanding that you're a knowledgeable part of the business, you are a valuable part of the business. One thing that I did that was not done then when I started, and that is because I had a really deep background in personal branding, was I started and created a little PR box for myself. In that PR box, I had a diary with my name on it, as a gift to PR managers everywhere. I had a flash stick with my photos, and nobody knew me. Like, no one knew me. And I'm sure they were thinking, what is this? Why is this girl giving us this? And that was an effort for me to expedite the process of getting known in my field. Because I've actually only been in entertainment since 2015. Till now.
Really?
I know, it feels longer, but my process was expedited by the fact that I took myself seriously before other people could see my value, before they could see what I brought to the table. So I put my bio there, I put my pictures, I put everything in there as a way to market myself, and I dropped it off at different media houses as a way to introduce myself, and it really expedited the process. It also ensured that when they used my photos, they used the correct photos. So.
I love that. That takes me now, what makes me want to ask, how many of us have professional photos, ladies and gentlemen? Some
Those are
homework.
the small little things that you overlook, you know, that LinkedIn profile, those professional photos, that bio that you have to curate and make sure that it really stands out. When you go into your pages on social media, what are you looking at? What story are you telling us about who you are, what you want to present into the world? All those things, they may seem little, but they tell a story about who you are and how you see yourself, which is the most important aspect.
You know, you mentioned before, obviously, the world of internet really blew up and it was still flash disks. I like that young
I had a
throwback.
flash disk.
So now with the change in digital landscape, how do you think as entrepreneurs we need to start positioning ourselves?
Yeah.
Right, because the reality is the first thing people are going to do is probably go onto that LinkedIn profile
Yes.
prior to the meeting. So what do you think we need to change in order to effectively build our personal brands in the face of this changing digital landscape?
So when you speak about positioning, we're speaking about exactly what we're talking about now. How do you view yourself? What is it that you bring to the table? What is that thing about you that makes you stand out that you're really good at? And that is your positioning. It's as simple as that. You know, sometimes because we're speaking on an entrepreneurial platform, we're speaking about business, we think that it is really complicated. But positioning is really about showing the world what you're good at, and the people that are meant to find what you're good at, who are interested in that, those are the people that you're going to attract. So what is it that you're good at? Who are you? What do you stand for? What are your principles and values? What does your current context look like? You know, my current context from then till now, I'm a mom now. I have so many roles that I play. It's so different to who I used to be then. So what is, in a business context, I would suppose, is looking at those finer details of your websites, your LinkedIn profile, your photos, and also having a record of your work. A lot of people don't find it important to actually record their work. They feel like it's just another thing, you know, my work will speak for me. But how, in this context, your work speaks for you? Because people actually have to see it. There has to be a trace of your excellence. Because as much as we do know there's word of mouth, there's also word of the internet, if I should say, where if you go into your profile, you can see and have a track record of this is what I've done, this is what I've done perfectly, and then you attract new customers into that space.
I love that. Have trace of excellence. Very tweetable. So I'm interested to know, you spoke about positioning. What happens in your personal brand when you need to pivot, which you've had to do, right? You've had to do 4 different industries. But over and above that, you went from entertainment to going to beauty to going into fintech. And you've been able to pivot constantly whilst not necessarily losing the credibility from a previous expertise. So how have you been able to navigate that?
I think that each of every one of us, we have a guiding light. For me, I never refer to my gut feeling as my gut feeling. I always feel like the Holy Spirit is always guiding me. But other people can also feel, I feel in life, you really know when it's time to move on. It's either you decide to listen to that or you don't. But for me personally, there's a quote that I really love by Steve Jobs where he says, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." I never feel like I've arrived. I never feel like I am the person. Although I do acknowledge that I'm really good at what I do. I do acknowledge that there's always room to learn. But I always stay hungry. I'm always open to opportunities. I'm always open to learning. I think if you're always open to learning, always open to opportunities, you always set yourself up to be in the right environment.
And I think that's critical. As entrepreneurs, we obviously are always looking for opportunities, but sometimes the opportunities don't align with our essence, and we have to remain authentic to ourselves. So I'm curious, in looking at all the numerous brand ambassadorships that you've currently, accumulated, when do you decide that this is the brand I'm going to work for? This is the brand I'm going to collaborate with, and when do you decide I've actually got to walk away?
So I won't lie to you guys, right? We have a lot of brands that approach us as individuals, as businesses that want to work with us. There's different phases in your life, right? So when I started off in entertainment, I took everything that came my way, most things that came my way, that I wanted to be a part of, and because I wanted to be out there, I wanted to show other brands that I am usable. So you also have to see where you are in your phase of your career. So then I would go to events, I would go out just so that people can see me, they can photograph me. I was in the right place at the right time. Right now in my career and where I am in my context, I've done all of that. That is for all the new people that are arriving in entertainment that have to be seen, and that is a necessary part. So you have to really recognize where are you in your pivot, in where you want to be. So right now in my career, it serves me best to actually be more private. It serves me best to be more selective because I've done a lot of things. Now I know my true value, the true value that I bring and the true value that I want from a brand. Also, because I am developing and being a part of different businesses, I have to also consider that I can't take things that are going to clash with what I want to do.
Conflict of interest.
Yes, that are going to provide that conflict of interest. So you really have to be cognizant of where am I in my journey and what does this current context need of me now? Because you can't be starting off in your career and you don't want to go anywhere, you don't want to be seen, you don't want to network, you don't want to do anything. Then how are people going to find you? How are people going to know you? But there is going to be a point in your life where you are the one who's going to be sought after. You don't have to go to the certain different events. You don't have to, and you will be the one that is, pouring out the information, or that people are seeking you for advice in your particular field. So I think in that aspect, it's very important to know where are you in your career. It's important to know what that aspect needs. In product management, there's that life cycle, that product life cycle. It really is beneficial to look at yourself as a product. You are a human being, yes, and you navigate your human context, but there's also a part of you where you are a product, and if you were to sell this product the best way you could, if you were to market this product, if you were to talk about this product, if you were to position this product the best way you could, what would you say about it and where would you place it? Those are the questions that you have to ask yourself, answer yourself, and then begin to execute them and find out where in that product life cycle you currently are.
I love the idea of knowing that we're in seasons and knowing what season works for when.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know, like anything in life, there are ebbs and flows. They're the mountaintop moments and they are the valleys.
Yes.
What are some of the challenges you faced in carving out your personal brand, and how did you overcome them?
I don't know if I've overcome them yet, or I think I am overcoming them in my own personal way. I think with certain careers that we choose, certainly the career that I chose, which is entertainment, TV shows and all of that, I think navigating my private life and my business context has been the most difficult thing, because what social media requires of you right now is for you to be authentic, for you to be out there, for you to talk about your life, for people to feel like they're connected. But then you want to do that, but also the same people are the people that are judging you, that are maybe spreading false or negative things. So that context, like how do I guide myself but also put myself out there so that my business context carries on? It's a very hard thing to navigate. I'm still finding my way around it. I don't have the answer for that, but I think that the biggest thing is that your authenticity will always shine through. Your track record will always speak for itself. What you have done, no one can take that away from you. Your education, the spaces you've navigated, the industries you've worked in, the trace of excellence that I was talking about earlier that you've left in every area, that nobody can take away from you. And I think that as you forge your way in different spaces, that knowing and that trace will always be the one that always also speaks for you and on your behalf.
I love that you're still navigating that, and I think that's the beauty of spaces like this, where we get to share some of the challenges that we're all facing. So in looking at all the entrepreneurs in the room, what are some of the mistakes that you see us doing when it comes to our personal brand?
When it comes to mistakes, I think the biggest mistake is just not knowing what your positioning is. I think one of the biggest mistakes is looking at what are other people doing. If your starting point is based on what other people are doing, and it's not a bad thing to look at what other people are doing, as long as you're looking at it with an intention for it to inspire you, for an intention for you to sit back and think about what you can do, or you can even better what they're doing. But if your context is not well defined, and you're not living with your purpose, what truly gets you up in the morning and makes you really excited, then you are really in the wrong place, because you're going to burn out, you're going to feel tired, and the pressures are going to get to you, and they're just going to make you fall flat. So I think you need to really be aware of, there's something that we always talk about, like know yourself, know who you are, know what you bring to the table, but those things are not easy to do. Knowing yourself is actually the hardest thing to to do. Who am I? What do I present? What do I bring? What, you know, the talents are there, but sometimes the navigation of who am I really, especially in a competitive environment like social media, where it's full of clutter and you have to break through that clutter. You have to really know who that person is. And I think that identifying that, and from the get-go, identifying what your product is, why your product is unique, why your product is going to be the one that stands out over others, and also being fine with the fact that this is my crowd. These are the people that work for me. I don't have to have everyone, but the crowd that I have is lucrative. So if you're looking at other people, you might think, oh my gosh, this person has so many followers, they're getting so much. It doesn't, followers doesn't always translate to income. Sometimes the people with the less followers are actually the ones that have more income. And the reason is because when they talk to their audience, they understand each other. They're speaking the same language, and you're able to sell to those people. So if you're going to look at who has these numbers and who doesn't, you're already at the wrong place. So I would think that my advice in terms of mistakes would be the biggest thief of joy and the biggest thief of business, I would think, is comparison. Don't compare yourself. Do what you're doing. God gave you a vision. He imparted it in your heart. When you wake up, you know that. You know beyond knowing that, I know this is what God put in my heart. And I believe that God does not put a desire in your heart that He has not given you the ability to accomplish. So whatever is in your heart is the thing that you can accomplish, because the one who started that desire is the one that's going to finish it. So that is my belief.
Let the church say amen.
Amen.
I love that. I love that idea of getting to know yourself in order to know the value you bring, also to know your values,
Yes.
and the value that you can derive from the brand. So I'm curious to know, in how you approach your personal brand and monetizing it, how do you stay true to those values?
I mean, that's really simple. You know where you come from. You know your family. You know what feels right. Honestly, I think that if you always listen to your guiding compass, which is your heart, which is your soul or spirit, you will always know what to do. I really believe that if you are very well attuned to who you are, the things that do not belong in your space, they literally repel themselves. And actually, it's a prayer that I pray to say that, God, whatever is not for me, please let it depart from my life. I just want the things that you meant for me. Because the things that are meant for you, they are full of goodness. They will make your days brighter. You will just rise and rise and rise, and you will always have energy for it. You will always have energy for something that you are meant to do. If you are finding yourself burnt out, it's normal to be burnt out, but if you're finding yourself burnt out to the point that you don't want to do that thing is not for you. You are being burnt out because it's not your purpose. Because whatever serves your purpose is going to renew your energy. Your energy will be renewed. You will constantly be renewed. And you can always ask your maker, God, renew my energy, because you know that this is the thing that you wanted me to do. You told me in the beginning, and I cannot grow weary over something that you deposited in my heart, because you said that the energy that I'll need, the ability that I'll need to do what you have placed in my heart, I will have. So I really believe that if you know what you're meant to do, and you can avoid so many things, and you can avoid making those mistakes of grappling to the wrong things. In terms of just a more basic point when it comes to that, is that I look at, so how I really monetize my brand is that I don't, at the moment, and I say at the moment because earlier I did, but now I've learned to take a few brands on a year, but I will literally tell them my value and I will not negotiate on it. And the reason I'll tell them my value is that I'll tell them that I take on a few brands a year. I take on these brands because I feel like they are more strategically aligned to what I'm trying to accomplish, and I would love for you to be part of the journey. And when I take on a brand, I look at, do you want a long-term partnership with me? Because brands that give you a longer-term partnership, as opposed to brands that you have now and then you have another brand, firstly, they confuse people. Who do you stand for? Yesterday you were advertising this product, today it's this one, today it's that one. It's confusing. So And there are main categories. So if you look at your business, say for instance, I'm in the beauty business, I can't take on too many brands. I have to take on the brands that best align to myself. So I'll tell myself in the beginning of the year, these are the brands that I would like to work with. If they haven't communicated with me, I'll send them a message and I'll say, hi, this is Ayanda. I've done such and such things before. I really believe that my brand aligns to your brand and I'd like to see how we can work. It's really not wrong to be the one that's emailing people. Please, like, don't be afraid to people even in where I am now, I still email people if I feel like there's a worthy opportunity to be explored. What's the worst someone can say? No. No, okay, then, I tried. Now you know that door is closed, you can try another door. So I really think that we need to stop being afraid of people saying no. We need to identify, even in the beginning of the year, so how I'm able to navigate the competition aspect of social media, for instance, is that in the beginning of the year, I will tell myself, these are my goals, these are the people I'd like to work with, I'd like to have one TV show, I'd like to have 4 brands, I'd like to do this, so that I know my context, so that even if those things don't happen, I'm not looking at, oh, this one just got this one. It's never something that I wanted in the beginning. But because I knew that, I can really bring myself back to say, actually, I see what other people are doing, but this is my goal, this is my vision. That is how you're able to bring yourself back to yourself.
I love that, holding that North Star.
Yeah.
So in looking at that North Star and keeping it consistent in a space where you're saying, you know what, I'm not going to take, George is gone. I'm not going to take ukuqaba, as you would say in Zulu.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to take anything and everything.
Anything that comes my way, yeah.
I'm curious to know, how do you stay consistent while still navigating, like you mentioned earlier, that personal life, the work life? How do you stay consistent in your social media and in the digital landscape?
It's so hard. I opened a YouTube channel earlier on in this year. I've abandoned it. I'm sorry to report, I'm not perfect. But, I think right now that is one of my biggest challenges is that balance, balancing family life, balancing work, balancing all the other roles that come with it. And, I've just come to the conclusion that you need to wake up each morning and do the best you can with that day. I think it's so important to write down what you need to do, to prioritize what you need to do, from important tasks to those that can wait. And also, we are always so scared to abandon something. If you see by June, you started this thing in January, by June maybe it's just not to say that it won't work in the future. There are those things that even if they're not working, they will work later. But there are those things that we should actually just say, you know what, this thing is not working, let me focus on other things. It's okay to say that. So in my context, I just felt like YouTube was taking a lot of my time, and at this point in time, it's not the time that I have, and there's other aspects that are more lucrative than that. And it's not to say I've abandoned it, but there's going to be a time and place for it where I'm able to give it the energy and the performance that it deserves. But at this point in time, I've just put it on pause. And those are the results of the decisions that you make when looking at your brand as a product, because you look at it holistically and you say, what can I do now to effectively accelerate my growth, and what can I pause, what can I further, what can I abandon to make sure that my brand is successful and that I'm heading the way that I want to.
I feel like you were here when we started this conversation. Papa mentioned at the beginning of the event, he said one of the nuggets he got last year from Vusi was knowing when to close a business and let go.
Yes.
And sometimes as entrepreneurs, our businesses are like our babies.
Yes.
I had a business of 6 years that I've just had to let go. Yeah. How many of us, by show of hands right now, know that there's a stream of income that's taking away more than giving, and we might have to press pause?
Yeah.
Some of us are knowing that some shouldn't be resuscitated, right? I think that's such a good thing, because it also goes back to knowing what your brand is and staying aligned, that it might not just be for the season yet.
Because also that's a segment of your brand. It doesn't mean it's the holistic, complete picture. There are certain things that will work out. They will require a shorter time. They will require even less effort than what you're currently pushing, because you're holding onto it. You're blinded by the fact that you're so close to this thing. But if you look at it as an independent entity and you're asking yourself, is this really worth my time at the moment? Is it something that I abandon completely? Something that I put on pause? Abandoning something doesn't mean that you are completely letting go of it. Sometimes you're going to come back with better learnings. You're going to come back with better information, you know, and a fresh new energy for it to look at it with different eyes.
I'm curious to know from you. So, with a lot of brand ambassadorships that you've done, as well as with collaborating specifically with your sister,
Yes.
I want to know, how do you maintain that personal brand where this is Ayanda, this is us, and this is Ayanda?
That's was easier for us because when my sister and I started our brand, QuickFace is actually a brand that we own. It has our trademark, it's our name, it's our products. We just sell it through Mr. Price as our distribution channel. And that was actually just a miraculous project on its own because my sister exercised so much faith in that moment. She was the head makeup artist of Scarlet Hill, which is a Mr. Price brand. And we literally had this idea on paper. I had the idea, and then I said, I want to do this with you because you are actually so good. She did my makeup today.
And the makeup is on fleek.
Thank you. So I was like, you're so good. Thank you. You'd be the right person to choose the products to, you know, I just have this idea. And she exercised faith. This is what she did. So we just had this idea on paper, right? She went to Mr. Price and she said, I'm so sorry, at the end of this contract, I'm done because my sister and I are starting a brand. We had nothing. We didn't have nothing. We just had an idea. And from there, Mr. Price said, whatever you guys are doing, we want to be a part of it. And that's how our brand actually came about. So sometimes exercising that faith, but in relation to your question, I was already a brand before my sister. My sister came in afterwards, and we are such different personalities because we understand. My sister is very like a homebody. She's more deco, which I cannot do for the life of me. And we just understand each other. I think our love for each other also translates because we pray for each other. We love on each other. We root for each other. There's never any competitive element there. So it really never actually comes to play. It's not something that we actively decided we're going to do. But I felt like, that's the other thing, a lot of people like to hog space and say, you know, I've been a brand before and I need to maintain my own brand. I actually saw benefits with having my sister because she brought a fresh new audience for me. And I brought a fresh new audience for her. And so sometimes collaboration also works in that way, where you realize that, you know, I could actually be better with somebody else on my side. It doesn't mean that I completely abandon everything that I'm doing on my own. I can still have other things, but maybe in this area, a collaboration is needed. So you have to also recognize those opportunities.
Knowing when to collaborate in order to compete.
Yes, 100%. Okay. And that's actually the best summary, English.
Oh, George. So there's something you've been consistently saying, there's a thread I'm seeing here. You mentioned submitting and giving your plans to God. You mentioned having to exercise faith when there's no funding, there's not even product. Yes. There's just an idea. You mentioned listening to your guiding light, which in essence for you is the Holy Spirit talking to you, say, this is how you should be moving. How important has your faith been in the context of business and in the context of your personal brand?
Oh, my faith is everything. My faith is absolutely everything. My life now, when I had my baby shower, maybe my first baby shower for my first baby, my friends, actually all of them that stood on stage to talk about my baby and me, they said, you know, Ayanda, everything that you have, everything where you are in life, you have manifested. We've heard you speak about these things, and we actually thought you were crazy. That's what they said. They said, you're just crazy. My mom even said, you live in dreamland. But I just felt like, no, there's something I deserve and I'm going to get it. I don't know. It just was in my heart. And so for me, faith is everything. But more than faith, I speak what I believe must happen in my life. I manifest my life. If I look at myself in the mirror in the morning and I tell the day how it's going to look like, it doesn't tell me. It's not a surprise to me. So when things come to me, they're not a surprise to me that they came. I'm just actually sometimes shocked that God did it, you know? But I tell tell my day. Yeah, I tell my day. I command my day. I command my life. I command things to move. I tell things to move. I tell things that are not needed to get off. I tell my life how it's going to look like. If you are having receptive energy where you respond to life and you're not telling your life, you have to have creative energy that creates things. If your heart tells you, like, I really believe that your desires are imparted on you by God. If there's a house that you have envisioned, it's because God saw you in that house. You've lived in it. I remember when I had before I bought my first home on my own. I was living in an apartment, and I remember going into my apartment and standing in the middle of my kitchen, and I said, I was talking to my apartment, I'm a crazy person like that, so I was speaking to this building, and I said, I appreciate you for giving me shelter, I appreciate you for just like protecting me and giving me a home, but I'm a lender, I'm not a borrower, and I will never borrow again. I am going to go and buy my property. And the next year, I bought my property. 2 years later, I paid it off. And that's just how my life works.
You're reminding me of Habakkuk chapter 4.
Yes,
you shall decree a thing and it shall be
happen.
established.
Yes.
I love that. Monetizers, how many of us are speaking to our businesses? How many of us are going to start speaking to our businesses?
Yes.
How many of us are going to start speaking to our invoices to be cash first, delivery later?
Talking about that, I even used to hold my card and used to say, I used to tell it how much it's going to have. I'm just radical like that. I don't know, it doesn't work for everyone, but it definitely works for me.
No, it definitely works. It definitely works. We've spoken a lot about personal branding. We've spoken a lot about values. I'm curious to know, looking ahead, you have been in this industry seemingly a long time. I'm very surprised that you said, yeah. I'm curious to know, what are the trends that you are currently seeing? Yeah. Where you're looking at the digital space, you're looking at personal branding, and you mentioned earlier, like for me, authenticity is starting to become a thing. Yeah. People want to connect. What are some of those trends that you're seeing that we need to incorporate in considering our personal brands?
I think the biggest trend right now, if you look at how successful Mpumi Ledwaba is, and what she has done, she's really talking to the current trends. The current trends is you don't have to be a celebrity to start off to be successful. Of course, she's a celebrity now. But you have to just speak authentically, even about your business. And honestly, it's something that I struggle with because I'm struggling with how open I can be right now in my current context. But it really is. I just remember when she started and she would just speak authentically about her life, about things she likes, and that is where social media is. People understand that there's sometimes when people put things out because it's an advert, but people can actually tell when it's a real thing that you yourself that are speaking connect with. So I think if you connect with your business, find other aspects. Like there was a lady up here who was speaking about, she's a renovator and she does complexes, yes, which is amazing. And if you wanted to get into the social space, you'd have to document that and speak authentically about, let's say maybe on a day, the slab of marble you're going to get was so hard to get and you had to take a requote and you had to send the client a new quote and it's higher than that, and how you navigate those things. Those are things that people are actually interested in. It's not necessary to say, okay guys, I've built this building and this and this. Yes, we understand you built it, but how did you do it? What challenges did you face daily? How did you overcome those challenges? What are some of the creative things that you do that maybe other people in your space don't do? Those are the little things that you can tap into. And sometimes in between, if you're a nice cook, throw it in there as well, because people are like, how are you doing all this, but you're also managing your family and different things, you know? So find the things that are truly authentically you, that you do without thinking, that even if you weren't getting paid for it, you would still do because you just really love it. That is the thing that you need to be talking about.
I love that Mpumi example. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And she was actually speaking here last year.
Oh, amazing.
So yeah,
Yeah.
you're definitely on point. You spoke a lot about authenticity, telling your story, being who you are. And you've done this effortlessly. But I'm curious to know, if you were to describe yourself as a brand,
Oh my God.
what are the top 5 words you would use?
Angaz. What would I? You know, I'm finding that hard because, as I say, it's a very tricky time in my branding life where, I mean, I have a family. It's something that, like, I have 2 little babies, 2 boys, and I'd really love to share them with the world. They are a huge part of 90% right now of what I do, and I'd love to share them with the world, but I can't because I just feel like social media is just so unsafe now. People are just trolls and they're just mean, and I just don't want my children to be exposed to that. So I feel as though I'm a bit inauthentic because there's a big part of me that I would love to share, but I just can't share it and I won't share it. What was the question again? I must 5 words.
5 words.
Okay, 5 words though that I would have. I think that in terms of I've been a hard worker. I think that I have been very confident in who I am. I think that I have been a trailblazer in a lot of contexts, especially with the Quick Face brand. Give me one more. What do you think?
Authentic.
Authentic. Do you think so?
I think you've been very authentic, because when we were sitting there having the conversation prior to us getting on stage, we were talking about navigating those private lines,
Yes.
right? And I would think you get on here and you're like, no, guys, everything's open. You know, because some people do that. And you
Yeah.
sat here and you told the truth.
That's true.
And I think for me, being authentic is being who you are, no matter where you are.
That's true. Okay.
And I think there's also honor to be given in keeping something sacred.
That's true.
So I think that's
Awesome.
authentic.
That's me, guys. So in Sandy's 5 words.
So, in closing up our conversation, I want to know, what's the one piece of advice you would give to aspiring influencers and entrepreneurs about turning their personal brand into a business?
In terms of turning your personal brand into a business, it's a lot about what I've spoken about already, but I really think that those things that you are looking over and thinking no one is going to be interested in, no, actually people are very interested in. Think about yourself as an interesting human who is full of everything that needs to be given to the world. And think about the things that you are truly, truly passionate about, the things that put yourself and your soul on fire, and really try and bring those to light. I've spoken a lot about my difficulty in navigating the social space right now. And the person that I think a lot of you right now can tell that I'm a person of faith. I love God. I love and all these things. But it's something that I haven't been able to translate online. But so those are some of the things that you can look at that come easily to you, that are passion points to you, that you can use to connect and find your tribe. Believe me, social media has your tribe. It has your people that want to buy your product, that want to hear your story, and that are interested in knowing how you do things. So believe that. The first point is to believe that you have something unique and beautiful and wonderful to offer to the world. Then think about it as a product, package it, and then dissect it. Think about different ways in which to communicate about the same thing that you're passionate about in a way that translates to your audience. The people that you need and the people that need to buy your product are there, and they are waiting for you and your story.
I cannot think of a better way to close our conversation. You can give a round of applause. And I think our conversation reminds me very much of the words of our favorite, everyone's fave, Oprah Winfrey. And she said, create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life, because you become what you believe. And indeed, and Thabethe, you have been able to do that. Your journey reminds us that authenticity and vision are key to building a personal brand that stands the test of time. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Thabethe.